The first time that I saw The Boy and the Heron, I honestly couldn't tell if I liked it. For all the things that had me smiling or even teary-eyed, the parts that frustrated me really weighed it down. I kept asking myself why it was even called The Boy and the Heron when the damn heron was barely in the movie, supposedly didn't have an arc or really any rapport with the boy. It made less sense than the world building where some things felt fully detailed while other subplots and villains were just there. But as I was waiting for my Uber, I had an epiphany of what the heron might have meant. I made a loud ah and realized I needed to see it again. And upon rewatch, what originally puzzled the hell out of me became one of my favorite movies of 2023. On first viewing, I knew the animation was as top-notch as always, but there wasn't as much of a wow factor or element of whimsy to it, and I couldn't figure out why. In hindsight, I think what makes the imagery and tone in this different from most Ghibli films was something I had to adjust to. They've made movies with dark subject matter before and done it well, but the visuals here are considerably more surreal, suspenseful, and even nightmarish than you'd expect. Some moments feel more like a horror movie. The themes of this movie have a lot to do with the connection between life and death, how the death of a person, place, or thing will inevitably be replaced with the birth of someone or something else, whether we want to or not. And I was either breathtaking, smiling ear to ear, or shaking in suspense at the insane amount of different ways Miyazaki beautifully portrays these themes with the visuals. That and probably Joe Hisashi's best musical score for Studio Ghibli. Seriously, the piano tunes and the strings in this were so... They had this bittersweet feeling of melancholy to it, and honestly, it drove the emotion just as much as the animation or the acting, if anything, maybe even more so. Moments like Mahito hesitating to use a knife to cut open a giant fish, or this incredible sequence of him watching these adorable creatures start their life cycle that had me crying for joy, make Mahito realize that it's more important to embrace the people he has in his life and let go of the ones he's lost. And speaking of which, the boy they got to play Mahito does a great job at portraying such a likable character whose flaws felt much more nuanced and realistic than I was expecting. We've seen kids in movies have to get used to a step-parent that they think is nothing more than a replacement for their dead one. But the dynamic between him and his stepmother, played briefly but excellently by Gemma Chan, is really unique in that at first, he clearly doesn't want to be polite to her, but he does so anyway because he knows he has to. Meanwhile, her persistent patience and optimism towards him, even though he's giving the silent treatment to her, actually made me tear up before the heron even shows up. And without giving anything away, there's someone they both share a deep connection with that really sells the pressure of her trying to establish a rapport with him, and why, despite his repression, is the reason he's still willing to risk his life to venture into this parallel universe to rescue her. It's clear as he's on this journey, he's discovering things about her or some other new people in his life that make him realize how much he took them for granted, and his acts of kindness become less out of obligation and become genuinely sincere. Florence Pugh effortlessly steals every scene she's in as maybe one of my new favorite Ghibli characters. She is the typical sarcastic but loyal ally she meets along the way, and I love that she doesn't instantly turn Mahito away only to change her mind. She instantly offers her help, provided he do the same for her. And that instant honor and loyalty she gives to him that he pays back in return is what helps Mahito become more trusting and hopeful towards his new friends and family. The only problem I had watching The Boy and the Heron both times was the pacing. While the first act really takes its time building up tension and atmosphere, and the second act does move at a reasonable rate, the finale felt very rushed. There were way more expository monologues than before to explain the threat this world is facing, and a subplot involving this kingdom of parakeets that, honestly, I still have no idea what the point of it was. Dave Bautista as their king is unfortunately stuck playing Ghibli's simultaneously most boring and yet over-the-top villain ever. Honestly, some of the scenes he has are just laughable. And there's also a wise sage played by Mark Hamill who does a good job, but again, he feels more like an exposition vessel than an actual character. And Mahito's father is one of Ghibli's dumbest characters I've ever seen. There's so many sentences of his that come out of nowhere, make no damn sense, and have little to do with what's even going on. and for whatever reason, he makes no effort to help his son come to terms with his new life, almost as if he somehow doesn't notice, and without getting into specifics, that deep connection he and the stepmother have just makes it clear that he would know something is up. But for once, in an opposite effect, as opposed to movies I start out loving and realize the flaws later on, what works about this movie is incredible, becomes even more investing through the animation, the voice acting, the music, and how it tackles mature subject matter in a way kids and adults can both take away from. And it comes to the point where I'm thinking about it so damn much that I want to see it a third time. Maybe with the subtitled version. I'm wondering if some lines of dialogue might make more sense. Yeah, I went 5 to 6 minutes without even talking about the Heron in a review about The Boy and the Heron, and that's because I honestly don't think you can talk about the Heron without getting into spoilers, because again, I didn't realize the metaphor behind him until after I walked out of the theater, but to some people, it'll be painfully obvious the minute that they catch on when the Heron is introduced. And that's really the great thing about this movie, is that it trusts the audience to pick these things apart, or to at least go back and revisit them and catch these clues upon second glance, and it can change your entire view of the movie. That part I really enjoyed about it. And I'm not sure how many people watching this are really going to cue in on that, so minor spoilers, you've been warned. And before I forget, I have to give major props to Robert Pattinson, maybe giving the best vocal performance in the English dub as the Heron. I mean, if you were to tell any random stranger who's never seen an anime in their life that that was him, no one would believe you. It's like The Devil All the Time. As crappy as that movie was, close your eyes and listen to him. You wouldn't have guessed it was Robert Pattinson. He gives all of his energy, his entire throat to that performance, and it paid off in spades, even when I doubted his merit as a character. One of the things I really love about Studio Ghibli is how they use color symbolism. My personal favorite Ghibli movie, When Marnie Was There, uses differing shades of the color blue to express grief between Anna and Marnie. I mean, the Blu-ray cover itself, and I've actually done a video of it in the past, you can see Anna looking up at the sky with her blue eyes, a darker blue shirt to show that she is in massive amounts of pain and grief over the fact that she really doesn't have any connection to her biological family, as opposed to Marnie, who is looking down with her blue eyes and a white gown with a tiny blue bow to show that, in a sense, she has made peace with her situation, but she's really there to help Anna come to terms with hers by showing the tiny glimmer of a connection that they both have. Which is why I am still kicking myself at the fact that I didn't realize when Mahito is not wearing all gray addressing the gray Heron, he's also wearing white and blue, similar to the gray Heron, who is also wearing white and blue feathers. Not wearing, because he's a fucking bird, but you guys know what I mean. I'm going off the cuff compared to most videos, just because I honestly think it'll be more fun for you guys. But, yeah. The second I rewatched it and I saw the white and blue on Mahito and the white and blue on the Heron, I just sat there and went, okay, I got it right this time. The Heron is supposed to be symbolic of the stepmother and the soon-to-be-born baby brother, right down to the fact that the Heron himself as a character is really just this small man coming out of a heron's body, which the metaphor really sells itself there, as is the formal introduction between the two of them, where he creates a mirage of Mahito's mother just to symbolize the fact that Mahito sees the stepmom and the brother as nothing more than replacements for her. And when I realized that after seeing that scene, I just sat there and went, okay, so the dynamic between the two of them is Mahito learning to, A, accept that he's going to be a big brother and practicing on how to be one. And the brother already knowing from the spirit world in a very bizarre way that the two of them are going to be contentious at first, learning how to get along with him. And learning not to be a dick about it, I guess. And there are certain scenes where I definitely saw the brotherly dynamic between the two of them. When Mahito is teaching the Heron how to fetch a pail of water, or when, after damaging his beak, he has to make up for it by sticking a piece of wood in the beak so the heron can fly again, which is a great way of acknowledging Mahito's malice and to show that he can and will be a better person to him in the future. And the heron, while he originally wasn't going to, eventually does have a change of heart and realizes that Mahito is a good person to be around, and from that point on, actually does do very selfless acts that he wouldn't have done before, like luring away the parakeets or rescuing Mahito from the parakeets when really he didn't have to. And there are so many other little details, like the fact that red is constantly a huge color whenever the stepmom or the mom herself actually show up, because the mom is wearing a red dress the entire time. The stepmom's bedroom is entirely red in the real and the fantasy world, oddly enough. That was something that I did not pick up on before. Neither during the flashbacks when the mother and the granduncle are shown, that they're portrayed as black silhouettes just to show that they're the dead ones, which, and again, the maid who's played by Florence Pugh in the fantasy world, not only, I should have seen that coming because she's wearing the exact same damn yellow outfit and pours like yellow tea, but she has a red and black flag because red to show her connection to the stepmom and black as a show that they're in a world where life and death are kind of interconnected because they do the same white is life, black is death. I mean, the Wada Wada are all white and they float up to the sky like sperm cells going to the egg. And of course, the pelicans are the ones eating up the sperm cells and only one makes it to the top. That sort of thing. And it is so fucking clever. I cannot believe that's the breathtaking moment that I needed the first time around. And it's the reason that I probably will go back and rewatch it a third time. I don't know if I will see it in subtitles, but we'll see how my schedule goes for the end of the year. But in any case, thank you guys so much for sticking through with this video. Whatever your thoughts are about Boy and the Heron, or Studio Ghibli in general, let me know in the comments below. Be sure to stay tuned for more reviews as I start to catch up on what I missed and what's coming out for the rest of December. And as always, be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.